Great. So if you haven't had a chance to make the first several sessions, initially we started with defining your role as a leader. That was session one. And then we wanted to know what your vision for your company was going to look like. And in order to achieve that vision, what your organization needed to look like in order to get there. So if you want copies of either of those recordings, let us know. And then finally, last week, we helped you figure out whether or not unicorns existed and how to and where to find the unicorn. So we're going to go into a little bit of that today as we get started. In the meantime, today, what we're really looking at is talking about wow onboarding, okay? So that goes a little bit back to my Chuck E. Cheese days. For those that don't know, I started my career with my high school job of Chuck E. Cheese, okay? So at 16, I got a job at Chuck E. Cheese. And at 18, I decided to go into management with Chuck E. Cheese. And by 20, I was running my own restaurants with them. And Chuck E. Cheese was really known for what they called welcoming their winners, which is that wow onboarding. So it's really setting up your new hires for success. I had a lot of joy and pleasure in opening up many, many new locations for Chuck E. Cheese, GameStop, EB Games, launched retail divisions inside of Tesla and Vivint Smart Home. And every one of those, I pulled along this concept of what would it look like to really welcome our winners, have a lot of fun with our winners, right? Like, how do you make this feel super welcoming? So if you have any questions about the content that we go through today, this is my direct contact information. You can feel free to reach out to me afterwards. Happy to discuss with any of you. This is Shara directly too. So if, as you're talking today, you realize that you should be having a conversation with Shara about adding leverage to your team, definitely feel free to reach out there or refer to her, anybody else, or any other business that you know that is. In the meantime, let's start with some story time. So first off, how many of you all watched my reel that Cyberbacker Maryland page posted last week regarding my worst first day ever? Because I'm going to tell the story right now, but while I'm telling the story, I want you to start thinking about your worst first day ever. And so here in this group, maybe I will tell you the name. I didn't want to tell it on a reel where everybody could see it, but at one point I started at Lumber Liquidators. I was hired as a store manager for a store that wasn't being opened yet. And I was placed in training at one of the largest locations, one of the busiest locations in the country. And I showed up for my first day. And as usual, I got there over an hour early. So I think I was sitting in the parking lot at like 6:15 or 6:30. Store opened at 8. I wanted to be in plenty to the time. And I see this delivery truck in this really small parking lot. And this massive, like, you know, it's an 18-wheeler, like extended bed, like everything. Like I've never unloaded a truck at Lumber Liquidators prior to that moment. And I knew that in order to unload flooring from the back of a semi, they were going to need forklifts and ramps and all sorts of other things in order to get this thing moving. So I'm watching, and the time's ticking away. They're starting to get a line at the front door. The store doesn't open until 8, but there's a line at the door, and this truck blocking almost every single parking lot spot. 8 o'clock hits, 8:15 hits, 8:30 hits. I'm like, oh man. I'm like texting the guy that referred me to come work for the company. I'm like, what did you get me into? Right? Like, this is bad. This is really bad. I don't have any idea what's happening here, but this is a mess. Finally, like 8:45, the store manager shows up, and he like rolls in, just rushing and knocking things over, flinging the door open, apologizing to everybody for being late. I go in. He forgot I was even coming that day. And he apologizes to me, says, look, I know you've got a lot of retail experience. I hate to have you do this, but you're not forklift certified. So I can't have you jump on a forklift and unload the truck. I'm going to need you to run the floor. Like, what? I know nothing about the product. The system is those old like DOS systems with slash commands, right? Like, how am I supposed to ring somebody up? I literally call a guy from another store and have him just like every single thing I needed to do, I'm typing into the system. It wasn't until like 3 days later that they finally even started on any of my paperwork. Like, just to give you an idea, trust me when I say I didn't feel as if I felt very welcome there, and was really highly doubting my choice at coming to this company for a job. how many of you might have felt the same way after a first day like that? I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. This is my first commission sales job ever, by the way, right? Like I was like, this is crazy. I can't imagine why I left the comfort of salary to come into something this disorganized. So how about you? Give me a worst first day ever story for any job that you've ever worked. Well, that's
Can't
awesome.
totally relate though.
Many of you have had much better experience than I have. Another one I put into the video was I showed up at Tesla. When I started working at Tesla, the orientation was literally an email. They sent me an email and said, sit here in this cubicle and just watch the videos for the next 8 hours. And we'll come back and check on you every now and then to see how it's going. And both of those, again, compared to that Chuck E. Cheese experience I described earlier, was dramatically different. So whether you had a worst first day ever or not, let's take it a different direction. If you were to pick your perfect first day, you know, a great experience on a first day, and this could go get back into your history for those of you that have had great first days every time, looking back at a great first day on a new job, or if you could design your own great new first day, what would that look like? And this is where I want you to start writing some things down, right? We're designing your onboarding program. And so in designing that onboarding program, you know, imagine what perfect would look like. Now, some of the things inside of this perfect might not be able to be accomplished yet, depending on the size of your team, depending on the person that you're hiring for. And we can start looking at and designing at getting it as close to perfect as possible. So as you start writing some of these things down, share with me, see what we're all coming up with.
Meeting the key people that you're going to be working with and being able to get a sense of what their expectations are.
Ah, love that. So supervisor, obviously, and then those are the other ones at your work that you're having a close relationship with that you're going to be involved in working with, right? Great. What else?
Hey, Jeff, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Thomas. Good. How are you? Not even
Hey, I'm
Friday.
doing great. Hey, you know, one thing I always thought was important is usually on someone's first day, you're pairing them with someone who's been there. And I think it's important to pair them with someone that likes their job.
Yeah.
I can definitely recall a scenario where I was paired with someone to shadow them on my first day, and they clearly were not enthusiastic about their job. They didn't want to be there, and that certainly did not help me get excited about wanting to be there either.
Yeah, I love that. And we'll get to that a little bit more in a little bit, but there's a story about how trainers can hold back your whole company, right? Pairing with a trainer that's excited about their job. Great. What else? Small or large? You know, if you could think of something big or something little that you know would make a big first day difference. I threw something in the chat. An immediate sense of belonging through connecting with others. Yeah, absolutely. Right. And that definitely goes back into hiring too, Heather, in the sense that you're hiring somebody that's a culture fit for your company, A, and then B, you know, having a chance to get to know them in the orientation process. Love that. Okay. What else want to share?
Like knowing what to wear that day before coming into it, like the before things, like do I pack a lunch? What do I need to bring with me? You know, what is expected in the environment I'm going to.
You know, the wearing I forgot about. Thank you for reminding me. The lunch one I did remember because food is a very, very important thing in my life. And yes, yeah, absolutely. What expectations did you set ahead of time, right? For them showing up, that pre-orientation letter, you know, this is the time you should be there. This is what you're going to expect to see that day. You know, I can't tell you the number of people that I talked to. I have 2 clients that started a new job over the past 3 months, and both of them, one of the first questions they asked before, like on the Friday before they go in on that Monday, was, I don't even know what's happening for lunch. Like, do I bring my own? Is there a fridge? Right? Like, who knows? So perfect. I think that's a great thing to bring up. So a couple things that I thought of as I was going through this, and in a little bit of a chronological order, just some things that have come up with me as I've worked with clients over time. First off, that welcoming introduction with friendly faces. So Chuck E. Cheese, by the way, when Chuck E. Cheese would do a new opening and hire a new person, they would literally do, a song and dance for new hires, right? Like, now that doesn't happen everywhere. I mean, I'm not expecting us to jump out and have a glee moment. And welcoming introduction with friendly faces is definitely goes without saying to some degree, that we want to see those friendly faces. Haro would literally have his team line up and give cheers to new hires on their first day as they walked in. They'd set up balloons and just really make it feel very special. So tech and equipment on site. So if you know that this person is going to need a laptop, if you know that this person is going to need any special equipment, desks, etc., like, have it ready for them. If you know they're going to have their own space, have it ready, have it set up, have it looking pretty. We'll talk a little bit more about this as we go, but engage training, including the company history, vision, and some idea on their values and the mission that they have. A lot of books that have come out recently talk about that purposeful mission statement inside of companies that really help new hires to latch on and become attached to the company's mission as a whole. And when somebody feels like they're part of a mission, things are going to go better. All right, free lunch with the manager. All right, this is, again, one of my favorites. So again, we know that they don't know what they're walking into. You can tell them to bring a bag lunch. And if you're already, as the leader of that particular person, taking time out and having an orientation with them, or if you're not the one leading the orientation, this is especially necessary, that they get some time one-on-one with the person that's going to be their boss on the first day in a not supervisory type situation, right? Just getting to know them, having a comfortable, and it doesn't have to be big. Like, we could do Chick-fil-A. We could do, one of the favorite places I used to do in Beltsville was Sardi's, right? Like, so it doesn't have to be huge, but something where they don't have to stress about what that lunch is going to look like on the first day, because on orientation, we're going to show them the fridge. We're going to teach them all that other stuff. So meet with the team, the other teams you may work with, which was said, training calendar, introduction to that trainer, and then expectations outlined and having a game plan. All right, so we're going to break down some of these bit by bit. And what I want each of you to do as we're talking through this, and again, anything that you might fill in between, our idea and our goal here is to have you design a perfect first day. And then we're going to finish with what could that perfect first day turn into, as you saw on the end of that checklist, as we start looking at their training calendar for their first 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, their 100 days. What does that look like, and how are you setting them up for success? So give me some ideas, some brainstorming ideas on what does a great introduction look like for you. So in your company, how could you make somebody feel special on their first day?
For me, Jeff, I've actually been a part of like the recruitment team during my corporate days when I was, working there. Basically, I just know that you should really feel them very welcome. I believe that you always have to like communicate with them, be enthusiastic. I think that's very important, that you would really allow them to feel that they have a friend. You will be colleagues once you start, because it's really important that aside from the role that you're gonna do when you're there, I believe one thing that's really important is the working environment. So you really have to make them feel that everybody is there for you, something like that. But yeah, that's for me.
Yeah, supportive. I love that. Absolutely. I had a friend that started a new job about 2 weeks ago, and when she walked into the new job, not only did the manager not come and say hi on the first day, it took the manager 3 days to actually say something to her. How welcoming do you think that felt? Right? And it wasn't a good thing on the third day, right? It was a pretty bitter encounter. So again, like, for you and your company? How can you be supportive? How can you show those friendly faces and those smiles? What can you have to make them feel welcome? I like things, I guess gifts, even though I hate to get gifts from family. Maybe I gotta dig into that a little bit, but gifts from work always feel kind of nice. Like, so my Cyberbacker Maryland shirt, like I was really happy when I got this, right? Like, swag. I love getting swag on my first day. A backpack, right? Like sitting there waiting for me. Even if it was just a cool little sticker with the company name on it that I could stick on something to show that I'm proud of the new job that I received. Had a manager one time pick on me for wearing a shirt from a company that I didn't work for anymore to the new company I worked for, and I was like, this is a nice polo. Why are you picking on me? Like, you want me to stop wearing this polo? Buy me some new polos that have your company logo on it. I don't know what to say. Like, they weren't competitors. They just, it was nice to receive. You create fans for life when you start to give them gifts and nice things that say, hey, we welcome you. We're happy to have you a part of the team, right? I still have Chuck E. Cheese shirts. I don't wear them much anymore. My Chuck E. Cheese Letterman jacket, that's in a TikTok somewhere. You can go back and find it. What about you? Another example of something that somebody did to make you feel welcomed, your very first encounter.
Hey Jeff, it's Heather. My first day here at Gateway, I walked into a beautiful floral arrangement sitting on my desk. Aww. And it melted me. It absolutely melted me. And there was just a note from Seth and Katrina telling me how much they appreciated that I chose to join the family. So it was just like I said, it gave me that immediate sense of welcome and, belonging. And it had a big impact for me.
It's super sweet. That's why we all need Katrinas in our life. I never would have thought about something like that.
100%.
That's awesome. Great. Thomas, did you get big flowers?
I did not get big flowers. No.
We got to talk to somebody about that.
We did.
No doubt. Cool. Okay. All right. Good. Okay. Moving on then. Moving on to number 2. Let's. This is a big welcoming poster from one of those teams that I was talking about. So, which is kind of cool. Can you imagine if you walked in on your first day and that's what it looked like? Like everybody was there waiting for you to welcome you. How would that make you feel? Even if you were a little bit like of an introvert, you're going to have to walk away from that with a little bit of a smile, right? So good. All right, tech and equipment on site. This one's kind of important because this is going to change for every single company a little bit, right? Here's the question. We all know that tech needs setup, right? It's got to be ghosted to have the user accounts for your team. Sometimes you've got to get special equipment ordered in. I know when I was running an assemblies company, they had a special tablet and special phones that had certain software that was preloaded on it. A lot of them do the GPS tracking, so you need that software loaded on it, things to that effect, right? So, like, what equipment do you need for your new hires? Is it going to be different for different positions? Probably, right? So in your new hire checklist, what you're doing and what you're going through to onboard new hires, what do you need? And then importantly, how long is it going to take you to get it? Like, you don't want it showing up middle of the day on orientation day. Again, like, you kind of want it stacked up and ready. Like somebody walks in and they see the new laptop in a box waiting to go. Like, that's all of a sudden it's like, ooh, that's cool. I know it's a company laptop and I'm excited to play with it, right? Like, we all like playing with new things. And so what needs to go on it? How long is it going to take to get that done? And then how do we take that into consideration when making them an offer, right? So again, I mentioned to you that at Tesla, it was literally just an email with a bunch of links that we clicked through. What I didn't mention at the time was that email had to be read from my own personal computer, because when I showed up on the first day, there wasn't anything there for me. Now, I'm used to things going wrong. Boy Scout motto was always be prepared. So I showed up that day with my own laptop, unsure what it was going to look like. Because guess what, Sherry? I didn't get that orientation, be ready email. Nothing about it said, hey, this is what your first day is going to look like. Show up at this time, at this place. Fortunately for me, I asked all those questions because I'd been through it a lot and I figured all the information out. Showed up with my own laptop, read the emails and watched the videos from my own laptop, and didn't receive my first laptop until almost about 2 weeks in, because that's what we found out Tesla needed in order to get the equipment sent to you in the tertiary offices. They needed about 2 weeks from onboarding. What we found out is the big reason they wanted to do that was to save costs. Like, we don't want to ship it out. What happens if the person no shows on the first day, et cetera, right? Like, and so they were, and my answer to that was, that means we need to hire better, so we get a higher conversion rate on shows, right? And so the point being, how successful are you setting somebody up on your team if they're waiting 2 weeks to get the equipment they need in order to be successful at the job? There are going to be some winners that go out there and figure it out and stumble through it and learn how to do it all on their own. And it's going to make probably the 60% in the center, it's going to make their job a lot harder to get moving. So what about you? So let's share. If you know that equipment's going to be necessary, what equipment do you need to hire for the role? Write it down. What do you need to do to get that equipment set up ahead of time, so when they open it up and turn it on, it's ready to go? This is a company asset. So from a company perspective, how are you protecting that equipment, right? Does it have tracking software on it? Are you buying cases to keep it protected? Again, those tablets, if you're working out in a retail store, people in a retail store with a tablet, guess what? It would drop and crack often. So we learned very quickly we need to start buying cases for these tablets too, right? It's our equipment, not theirs. And let's buy in the best case. $70 case is well worth keeping a $400 or $1,000 tablet protected, right? Okay. Any questions on equipment? Ready to troubleshoot? Interestingly enough, the same friend of mine that started a job a couple of weeks later and didn't talk to her boss right away, the tech department did their job splendidly. In fact, somebody from tech, their corporate is in Pennsylvania, and she was starting at a location in Maryland. Somebody from their corporate tech department showed up on the first day to make sure she was set up, to make sure her equipment was working great, and to troubleshoot any issues that she might have had on the equipment day one. Not everybody's a winner on all things, and we can all work to be a little bit better, which I think is awesome. All right, so engage training. So let's share this. Who here knows your company's mission statement? And if I was to ask the other leaders in your company, do they know?
I have to say, ours is a mouthful, so I cannot recite it word for word.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that completely. I worked for a company at one point that when I asked them about their mission statement, they handed me 2 pages. I was like, what? I was like, this is like a mission. I don't even know what it is. It's a mission document. And it was okay. I'm okay with that being the mission. And to your point, let's get it down. We don't have to eliminate the well thought out vision of the mission, but let's make at least a positioning statement that the whole team can learn and understand and know, right? Something that everybody can unify behind in order to understand the big thing that they're trying to accomplish. I just did that with a client this week. He had his value prop that we were able to reword in such a way that he was like, yeah, that's like, we weren't even trying to design his mission statement. But at the end of the value prop exercises that we were doing together with him, he literally said, yeah, perfect. That's our mission. I was like, oh, there you go. Right. Like, now you have a mission too, which is great. And so inside of that, there's a few things that you probably want to identify in your mission statement with your company that you want to be able to relay to your team. And the first one is what? What do you think is important to have in your mission statement?
The objectives of the company, why that company is being created, or that, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, what pain are we solving, right? Absolutely. You know, we have a client. Oops, I might have just given one away there. Somebody can come back and have an easy one there. What pain do we solve? So who knows another one? I just gave one away. Who we're in business for, right? So who are we helping? What pain are we solving? And then why are we doing that, right? Absolutely.
Yeah, Jeff, I think it's very important to lay out your goals in your mission statement.
Yeah.
You know, the why. Why are we doing this?
Absolutely. Right? Most of us, again, like there's so many companies out there. If we learned anything through quarantine, Thomas, we learned anything through the quarantine. What we learned from the quarantine was that people don't want to hang around jobs anymore that they don't feel aligned with, right? Like they've got to have a connection and an alignment to that job. And so with a connection and an alignment, what mission are we aligning with? All right, what about a short history? Everybody know the short history about the company that you're working with? Something concise that you can share that also helps to explain why that's the mission. I love doing that. When I was at Chuck E. Cheese, a little known fact for Chuck E. Cheese. Anybody know who founded Chuck E. Cheese? I was on a call recently and somebody else told me on the call. They're like, oh yeah, founded by such and such. And I was like, shut up. How do you know that? Like, it blew my mind.
Yeah, we have our company history on our on our website. So it's like the first page of our website, and it explains how we started our company back in 2014, based on the experience of a husband and wife team.
Perfect. Great. And so inspirational, gives a little history, tells you what you're working for, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Love that. Okay. And then vision statement. So what's the difference between a mission and a vision?
Jeff, the way I interpret that is the mission is the why and the vision is the how, I think.
Okay. Yeah. So again, who we're helping, why we're helping them, why we chose to make this what it is that we do. Yeah, and the vision is the direction of where we're going, right? Like it's one thing to understand what it is that we're doing. It's another thing to understand where it is that we're going, right? We want to make sure that we're answering all of these questions inside of our orientation. They want to know who that they're working with. So the who from the manager and the who from the trainers. They want to know what it is that the goal is that we're working to achieve together. And the vision is where are we going with that, right? Like how big is this going to get? There's some companies out there, and this is fine because I love to say it this way. Like when I hired an employee, and I think I mentioned this in last week's call, I had an assistant manager at one point in time, and I learned this early in my career. And she told me, Jeff, all I ever want to be is an assistant manager. And me as this like 21-year-old hot shot, like, first, youngest GM in the company, winning awards on a national level. Like, I was like, why in the world would you only want to stay an assistant manager? And throughout my career, I've continued to run into people that are just happy where they're at. Like they like the role that they're in. They're satisfied in that role. They're going to be a great that role the rest of their life, right? And there are stores and companies out there that exist in the same way. I just want one restaurant, one location. I want to be here. I want to hang out where everybody knows my name, right? Like this is all I ever want to do. I never want the stress of something bigger. Some contractors that say, I just want to be the guy that's hammering the nails, right? And at some point in time, I'm gonna take that money and build a log cabin by a lake and just watch my dog every morning with my cup of coffee, right? And that's fine. And most of us have that aspiration, by the way, but that's fine. Like that's all he wants to do. Or all she wants to do. That's how they're going to grow and build their company. And other people that They want 5 locations within the next 5 years, right? They want 500 locations within the next 5 years. They want a team of 10,000 working for them. Those visions are going to look different, and they're going to attract a different type of new hire, right? Like if you want to be a world traveler, which one of those companies do you apply to? The company that only wants 1 location and they're never going to get any bigger, or the company that wants 5,000 locations and 100,000 employees? A little bit facetious or redundant or rhetorical. And go ahead, give me the answer. Which one do you apply to?
Where's the second one, Jeff? Since
Thanks.
if you wanna go international.
I don't know, Shar. We've only got like 7 people officially on our team, right? Like in our close team, and I could be international with you.
Right.
Guess it just depends on the vision, right? Like where are we going to go? You know, when Nike was founded, that guy was international. He was traveling all over the world and just said, I want some good tennis shoes. And he only had like 4 people working for him. So again, what's the vision, right? Identify the vision, and then we can also start figuring out the path to get there, and that's the fun piece to me. So free lunch with a manager. This may not be important to all of you. And so if it's not, let's talk about what you can do as the leader in your company to, again, make sure that they're getting one-on-one interaction with, with the leader that they're going to be encountering with, that they're going to be working with on a regular basis, their supervisor that day, especially if that person's not the one doing the majority of the orientation. So how do you make your new hire feel welcomed and special and a part of their team with their supervisor in their first day?
For me, maybe, sharing food is also one thing. And sometimes, most especially if ever you're like under their team, you should let them feel that you're friendly, you're not that intimidating, and you share the same value basically. And, little things like maybe adding them up on social media, just being friendly,
Yeah, let's connect. Yeah, you on Facebook? I'll add you as a friend. Sure. And sometimes some people might feel that as uncomfortable depending on what you share on Facebook. So question for you, Shara. This is actually ideally for you. This is a great question because of what it is that we do. And that, like, virtual, right? I can't take you to lunch on your first day. In fact, I often joke that if you want an assistant that's going to be able to grab you coffee, like, don't hire a cyberbacker, right? Like, like you're never going to go get the bagels for the office, am I right? Like, at least not here, maybe locally, you'll get the bagels for everybody there. And I know you and Irene have hung out, like you guys have met and grabbed food together, which is awesome to me. Like the person that referred you into the business was my first cyberbacker ever, which makes it even cooler for me. It's just like a small little family halfway across the world. But so for somebody that's working virtually that isn't anywhere near their team or their office halfway across the country, or maybe just a couple states away, what is it that a manager could do to help make you feel special on the first day?
Oh, for me, it's really communication. Like, even though we're just working virtually, like in our setup, Jeff, I know that you're in Maryland, I'm in Philippines, right? But the way you connect with me, and you like always find common denominators when we have a conversation, it is really important that you don't you let me feel that we're still connected even though we're like miles away, right? Talking about common things, or basically asking questions about me personally, getting to know each other, building relationship. That's one thing that I really appreciate, because even though we're really afar, I can feel that I'm part of the team, really. I feel that I belong.
Well, good. Go ahead, Sherry.
And we're a remote company, and one of the things that we've done is actually have something delivered to their house. like have lunch delivered to their house, if possible.
I love that. Yeah, perfect. I love that too. I thought about that when I was making the slide this past week, and I did forget about it today. Yeah, order some pizza for them remote. Perfect. Yeah, lunch is on me. Pizza's cheesy. Okay, anyway. Love it. All right, thanks for that. Somebody should have groaned to that. I saw Shara smile. Heather, did you groan? Come on.
I laughed on mute, but I laughed.
The loudest.
All right, there we go. All right, so meet the team and the other teams you might be working with. Who was it? Sherry, I think you said this initially, right? So make sure that you're having a chance to interact with the people, like every person that you're gonna be interacting with as part of your job, you should be introduced to on the first day. How did you make that happen?
For us, we're small, so if that's really not a challenge.
Well, I mean, but
usually,
you just mentioned you're remote.
virtually.
Not everybody's in the office every day, so it might
Right,
have
but
been
you
more.
could just do it.
Yeah.
You could do a team meeting like we're doing right now.
Okay, great. So virtually, like on Zoom, you make sure you get everybody onto a call together and say hello.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. And excuse me. Yes, to do a virtual on call, or sometimes even though we're remote, the first day would be in person for some people if they're local enough.
Yeah.
So then it works out that they're meeting most of the team then in person, and then virtually for those that can't actually be at the location.
Nice. Smart. Thinking it ahead. That's really what this comes down to, is planning ahead, right? You know, I think a lot of times orientation goes as an afterthought, where somebody reaches out on Friday and says, okay, what time am I supposed to show up on Monday? And then the person answers back and says, yeah. Like, that's happening next week, isn't it? Oh, shucks. You know, love that. Okay, so again, write it down. Who are the people that the person you're hiring needs to meet on the first day? Like last week, we went into job descriptions, right? We talked about the top 20% tasks. We talked about their one thing. And when we talked about what are the other 80% tasks that they're going to be doing. And so as you look at the new hire and their orientation, and you should be comparing it to that job description. And so inside of that job description, look at all the roles that you know they're going to be doing, and you should know who they're going to need to interact with in order to accomplish those roles. And so to that exact point, like, you know, job description could be printed, the person's name's next to it. I know some companies even have photos of everybody that they're going to be interacting with inside of their orientation material, right? So talk about a great way to get to learn the team is to have their photos next to their job descriptions, so that way when you go to look them up and you know who it is that you're going to be reaching out to, or a new hire doesn't remember the 15 people they met the first day, or even the 3 people they met the first day, they don't remember exactly who was who, they can go back and take a peek at that and remind themselves who it is that they need to be working with for any particular job function, A, and then B, what that person's face was looked like again, in order to know for sure who they were interacting with. Love it. All right, training calendar detailed and introduction to trainer. This is an interesting one for a lot of people, because this, again, like, this can be intimidating. It requires a lot of forethought. And so first question I want to ask before we get too into this is, if you realize in the middle of the training calendar that you got something wrong, what do you do? And by something wrong, I mean something wrong with the training calendar. We'll talk more about something wrong with the new hire another time. But that'll happen sometimes throughout the training as well, that you realize about 3 days in, you're like, oh, shucks, this person might not be the right person, but that's another conversation. That's next week. So, to that extent, we're going through our training calendar with a new hire and something is wrong. What do you do? You messed up. You forgot something. You didn't include something. You realize you're going down the wrong path. What do you do?
For me, if it happens, should announce it as soon as possible that there's a problem about the calendar and the schedule. Or maybe you're scheduling it as soon as possible, if ever.
Okay, great. So announce it. Yeah. Don't hide it. Don't keep it a secret. For sure. Anyone else?
Yeah, that was my first thought too, just owning up to, falling off the path or, whatever the mistake is, and just acknowledging it, fixing it, and moving on.
Yeah, 100%. I think one of the fun and interesting scenarios that we face as leaders is it's kind of a paradox of leadership. And one of the paradoxes of leadership is that we don't necessarily feel like we can make a mistake, right? Now here's the problem. If I never admit to making a mistake as a leader, what's the repercussion?
You're not being a good role model to your members, because ownership and accountability is very important if you're going to be a leader.
Okay, yeah, great. Ownership, accountability are important. Do you think my team knows when it is that I've messed up, Shara?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, whether we've talked about it or not, right?
Yeah.
you jumped on that one a little too fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, Thomas says you're going to lose respect, right? Yeah, absolutely. So if somebody's not doing their job, somebody's messed up and they're not owning up to it, like all of a sudden you start looking at them with different eyes, right? So again, and one of the fun paradoxes here is, so as a leader, if I mess up and if I tell people I mess up, what's the adverse of that? Instead of losing respect, I what? We get respect, right? So instead of losing respect, I'll get respect, because they're going to look at me and say, oh, look at that. He admitted he messed up. And all of a sudden they're like, that's cool. And I'm creating a culture in my team of being allowed to do things that are challenging, that you don't necessarily know all the answers to, and that you're allowed to mess up on. Because when I do something that's challenging, that I don't have all the answers to, and I'm given the permission to make a mistake, what do you think happens inside of my company? So I'll give a scenario, and while you guys are thinking about that, because this is crucial for new hires, especially as you're building if you want your company to grow, this is crucial. So I like to call it my autonomy speech, and I would give this every orientation at Chuck E. Cheese. So Chuck E. Cheese, I probably did my most orientations out of any other company in my career. So, I worked for them for nearly 10 years, and I hired 3 or 4 people every single week for 10 years. And then on a new location, I was hiring 50 to 100 people a week, right? So I gave this speech a lot. And the autonomy speech at Chuck E. Cheese went a little like this. I was like, hey guys, every now and then we're going to mess up. Like, we're going to make some food wrong. If somebody makes some food wrong, and we take it out and we realize that the pizza that we just made them was not the toppings that they thought they ordered, what do you think we should do? Good.
Make them a new pizza and possibly give them the other one too as a freebie.
There we go, right? It was just going to go to the trash anyway. Well, here, take this and nibble on this. May as well hold on to this pizza while we're making you the other one. And we're going to go back and make the other one right. I apologize. We'll get it in first over everything else. It'll probably be about 8 minutes, right? Perfect. Now, as a new hire, do you think you need to come to me every single time it is that we made a mistake on a pizza and let me know before we go to the kitchen and tell the kitchen to put that order in? No, of course not, right? Go, make the decision. In fact, like if a game breaks and somebody is upset about it, what can you do? Let's give them a couple of tokens, right? Now, there is a limit. And we need to set that limit up in the orientation. And so what I would also say at the same time is like, now if a game breaks, you're going to give them a couple of tokens. Now you don't give them the game. I don't want anybody walking out of here with our wave racer or a skee ball machine, right? We're not going to give them $100 prize from the prize cabinet, but we could give them a free bag of cotton candy, right? So a $2 to $30 decision is okay for my team to make without coming to me for permission. We need to give them a free roll of tokens because they had a bad experience. Fine, go for it. And don't don't make $1,000 decision without talking to the boss, right? Or a $2,000 decision. And so inside of the orientation, same thing, right? We're setting them up for the fact that I might mess up. Bad things might happen. Inside of this training calendar, when bad things happen, when mess ups happen, we're going to quickly work to fix it and fix the mistake. And we're setting you up with a great trainer who's going to know how to pivot through those things and going to teach you those same ideals. And to your point, Thomas, obviously somebody that's excited about the job. And we're going to hit this real fast because inside of one of those companies I was working for, they had set a goal for their salespeople of setting up 2 leads a day. And so every single time any new hires went out, for some reason, the best anybody would ever do was set up 2 leads a day. And finally, I was like, guys, we can do so much better than 2 leads a day. Like, they're out there working retail stores for 8 hours. They should be able to get 2 an hour. And then everybody's like, that's impossible. So what we started doing is we actually started setting up the new hires with people that didn't know that was impossible. And all of a sudden, when they had an excited trainer and somebody that had big visions and super successful, guess what? Well, we started doing amazing things. And they started setting up 15 and 20 and 30 leads in a day from a new hire. And they were quality leads, but nobody had ever told them only 2 was possible, right? And so you start to limit your company when you put people into training positions and leadership positions in your company that have a limited vision. All right, so last 7 minutes, want to shoot through here. If you guys want some examples on like a passport to success or a 100-day plan, like inside of the training calendar, you might be blocking out exactly who they're working with, what hours they're working for the first couple of weeks of work, but also make sure that you're creating an extended plan. So they have a way and a path that they can see if they do these things every day for the next 100 days, that they're going to be successful in their new role, in their new sales position, whatever it might be. Give them the keys to success. As part of that, we want to make sure we're setting the expectations. Again, remember, we're setting expectations in the hiring process. We're literally telling them what they need to be able to do to be successful while we're interviewing and hiring them. We're reiterating that on their first day. And then we're reiterating that every single week in our one-on-ones for the first 30 to 60 to 90 days. The first person that ever gave me a 30, 60, 90, they sat down and they reviewed it with me, and we didn't talk about it again until like day 120. At which point they looked at it and said, oh, we haven't done some of these things. I said, oh, I didn't realize this is stuff that we were supposed to be working on. I just thought it was like kind of like benchmarks, you know, like didn't know it was a checklist, like got to get this done or you're gonna get fired. And so literally outline it. I've got examples of this too, and I can share them with you, but for the sake of time, we won't put any on the screen unless some of you guys really want to see it. But if you want to see what a good 30, 60, 90 looks like, let me know, and we can send you some copies of a 30, 60, 90. And that's just basically, they're cascading goals, right? So if we know in there that we want somebody to be able to complete a particular task, and we know that when they're new and they're not able to do the software yet, like inside Solar City Tesla, we had, like, they were basically electrical engineers. They had to design solar systems on top of people's houses. And people that had never used that type of 3D software before, like, they were crying in their first week because we were asking them to do so much of that design work that it was taking them hours each night to get it done. And, you know, we were often coaxing people, look, just keep at it. Believe it or not, you know, before you know it, you'll be doing these in 5 minutes. So like 5 minutes, impossible. But we just kept pushing on them with that standard that you're going to be doing these in 5 to 10 minutes after you've got a lot of practice, because it was taking them hours the first couple of nights. And sure enough, by like month 3, people are rolling up to their appointments, looking at the house, designing it in the car, and then rolling in, right? Like they started to figure it out and they got it done. So in that same process, 30, 60, 90, what do they need to be able to do? And how will that ramp? On the opposite side of that ramping story, when I became a territory director for them, I created a 30, 60, 90 plan for me and my success inside of that organization. And I met with the VP of the company, a director of sales, and as we were talking, I think he might have actually, no, he wasn't the CFO. I apologize. So as we were talking, and I was breaking him down my 30, 60, 90 plan in my interview, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to achieve it, and this is what I'm going to hit in 90 days. He looked at me and said, Jeff, that's great. Now, what if you could do that in 30 days? He's like, if you make it your goal to do that in 30 days, you've got the job, right? He's like, you're limiting yourself. I love the plan. I think you can do it in 30. And I was taking the last place territory in the country, and what he was asking me to do was make it number one by the end of 30 days. Be aspirational, set up a 30, 60, 90-day plan, give them the steps to achieve it, and you'll be amazed at what can happen with a new hire, especially when you're reviewing it each week with them. So a recent survey by Seth Godin in this new book that just came out a couple of months ago. If you haven't had a chance to read it, the Audible is great. What would make your job the best you ever had? So I'm going to read through a couple of these, and this is how we're going to end this call. I surprised myself with what I could accomplish. I could work independently. The team built something important. Oops, I copied and pasted something wrong. I apologize. But guess what wasn't in the top 4? What do you not see here? We don't see money. In fact, money wasn't even listed in the top 10. Here's my question for you. As we sign off of this call and start looking forward to the next week, what can you do to build an amazing work environment that helps people work independently, helps them accomplish something important, and helps them feel like they're on a team? And how can you make them feel that way in day one and continue to feel that way as you have communication and follow up with them weekly? And that's next week, by the way. Leading your team through proper communication and protocols. And what does that communication protocol look like in such a way that you keep your team feeling involved in that excited way every single week after orientation?